White people are evil. White people suck. We should be ashamed of ourselves.
She wouldn't have even been woke. I think when this was recorded, you wouldn't call her woke, you would have called her an SJW. And SJWs weren't as adept in these arguments, but if she was a wokey, she would have been, of course white countries are the most developed. How couldn't they be when they... And you have to be careful, because if you get stuck running down those arguments, you could, if you're the person you're debating is adept enough, you could be in very weird areas very quickly.
I don't think you need to bite the bullet on calling yourself Islamophobic. That's my take.
Oh, sure.
At least based on how you rationalize it.
Sure. Do you want me to give what I think your argument is, and then we can disagree, or we're gonna have a discussion on it? Are you gonna say something along the lines of, like, Fuentes said something once I thought was an intelligent way of phrasing things, and I wish, I'm being very careful about this now, especially because I've seen how much this has bit me in the ass before. Like, I believe that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. I think these two things are different, but oh my...
And that's a bond that has never been broken.
Wait, what does he actually sound like? Is this his normal voice, or I'm so confused about everything that this guy has done after his, like, after his, the allegations and shit? Does he when he normally talks, does he sound like, does he sound like Frank Underwood, or is he's playing his character?
That others aren't.
Well, I think I have a long...
I don't understand. Do you remember once the charges dropped, was it like a year after that he put out that really weird video where he, like, what was it? Was it this one? What was it like? There was like all these sexual assault allegations dropped. I think he came out and he was like, by the way, I'm gay, so leave me alone. And then nobody heard anything. And then like a couple months later, in the heat of like all of this, he drops this video on like his YouTube channel after being accused of 14-year-old, I think. Accused of, I don't know what actually turned out. I think he actually beat all the charges. I don't think anything, I don't think he got convicted of anything. Whether he did or didn't, I don't know, but like, yeah. But then he makes this YouTube video.
I know what you want. Oh, sure, they may have tried to separate us, but what we have is too strong, it's too powerful. I mean, after all, we shared everything, you and I. I told you my deepest, darkest secrets. I showed you exactly what people are capable of. I shocked you with my honesty, but mostly I challenged you and made you think. And you trusted me, even though you knew you shouldn't. So we're not done, no matter what anyone says. And besides, I know what you want. You want me back. Of course, some believed everything and had just been waiting with bated breath to hear me confess it all. They're just dying to have me declare that everything said is true and that I got what I deserved. Wouldn't that be easy if it was all so simple? Only you and I both know it's never that simple, not in politics and not in life. But you wouldn't believe the worst without evidence, would you? You wouldn't rush to judgments without...
This is such a bizarre video. Why the did he do this? Yeah, I don't know. This is like... Okay, sorry. We got super subject. This is like a real-life schizo post. Holy shit.
White people are evil. White people suck. We should be ashamed of ourselves, and
I don't think we should be ashamed of ourselves. I think that we should take responsibility for the system that we've created.
Best system in the world?
Oh, we do not have the best system in the world.
Who has a better system?
There are many years.
This is old. Didn't we watch this clip like 5 or 6 years ago? I feel like we saw this a long time ago. Is Japs really a slur? I thought it was short term for Japanese. Japs is I think it's an older slur in the US, or it can mean Jewish American princess. But when you're referring to Japanese people in the US, I believe Japs is considered a slur, or it was. But honestly, like, it's so dated, I don't even know if anybody would hear it that way anymore, I'm not sure. I think it'd be like calling like Asian people like Oriental. That used to kind of be a slur a long time ago, but like, but I don't know if, like, if you were to say like, oh, they're Oriental, I don't know if younger people, I don't know if Zoomers are aware, where they'd be like, is that like an okay word? Because it's like so dated. I also think that it's funny that we used to use colored as like kind of an off slur thing. And then like we went to African American, then we went to blacks, and now it's like people of color. There's got to be like some old person who was like looking at their kids scolding. You don't call them colored, grandpa. What do you mean color? We're all different colors of the rainbow, blah, blah, blah. And like 20 years later, like, that's not an African American, that's a person of color. And you're like, so colored? What? Person of color. People, we use people first language here. Like, okay. I don't know, bro. The euphemistic treadmill is fucking AIDS. Christ.
And
I don't think we should be ashamed of ourselves. I think that we should take responsibility for the system that we've created.
best system in the world?
Oh, we do not have the best system in
Who
the
has
world.
a better system?
There are many European countries that are much better off
Oh,
than
you
us.
mean like the European countries with a higher density of whites, like Northern Europe?
That's one way to phrase it, I guess.
You don't mean Turkey.
No.
You don't mean Eastern Europe
No.
with the communists. So the only time you can come up with a system...
Oh, she's so ignorant. You don't mean Eastern Europe? Like who? Like Poland? That's a pretty white country, no? Does she? I'm just looking at her. She probably has never left Northern California in her life. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. That was a huge assumption. My bad.
I guess?
You don't mean Turkey.
No.
You don't mean Eastern Europe
No.
with the communists. So
There's some Polish dude in chat right now typing up some huge essay about, actually, Poland is not Eastern Europe. We're just as much Central or Western Europe as any other fucking country. That's bullshit.
the only time you can come up with a system that's better than America, it's a country that's more white than America. I don't understand.
I don't know what to say to that, so.
The dominant white people...
It's sad because this is like a level 1. No, this would have been like, because there's many evolutions. She's like a level 7, like, she wouldn't have even been woke. I think when this was recorded, you wouldn't call her woke. You would have called her an SJW. And SJWs weren't as adept in these arguments. But if she was a wokey, she would have been, of course, white countries are the most developed. How couldn't they be when they've been exploiting and breaking the backs of darker-skinned people, colored countries through colonialism and Western hegemony for the past 200 years? Obviously, the white countries are more developed because they were built up by these oppressed other countries. Like, that would be the woke response. But they haven't, like, evolved to that level of argumentation yet. So she's, like, stuck on... How do I explain the white countries being ahead of the other ones? You're saying that in the soy voice, but isn't that kind of a decent response? There are everything. When you're talking anything worldwide, a lot of these issues are highly multifaceted, such that I doubt you could ascribe more than 25% causality to any particular thing when you're on some huge macro level. I don't think so. I don't think you could do that. And you have to be careful because if you get stuck running down those arguments, you could, if you're the person you're debating is adept enough, you could be in very weird areas very quickly. The only reason why the white countries did better are because they exploited, all of the minority skin-colored countries. It's like, oh, well, why did they exploit them? Well, because they sailed there and they took them over. Oh, well, why didn't those people have weapons? Why couldn't they defend themselves? Well, because they got psychically exploited. Like, why weren't their minds stronger? Like, what do you say that? That just don't ever get caught up. The problem is if you make dumb arguments, if somebody knows them a little bit better, you're gonna get tripped up on like some really weird shit, and then you're all of a sudden you're like, maybe they are genetically inferior. Holy shit! Like you're gonna be like mind fucked. Don't do that. Don't be dumb. Just like arguing that Donald Trump caused a 3-hour delay in the response time in DC. Okay, don't let people catch you in arguments like that. Okay, you're gonna be fucked. Big difference between Germany and Japan post-World War II is all of Europe is chill with Germany, but basically all of Asia still hates Japan. Mostly because Germany actually acknowledges its crimes and has apologized, but Japan refuses to do either of those things. You know, I'm going to be honest. I thought that as a Westerner, as an American, and I would ask people questions about that because I would go with my little historical knowledge and I'd go to South Korea, I've been to Taiwan, and I'm like, man, I'm just so curious because like obviously I'm in the West. Like, do you guys all still like hate Japanese people? You know what everybody tells me? All my Asian friends that live over there or have over, you know what they tell me? They say, they're like, Japanese people are pretty chill. You know who we hate? South Koreans. Those people act so fucking stuck up. They're the most stuck up, snooty fucking people. That's what I heard from everybody in Taiwan when I asked. I was curious. If anybody has other opinions on that as Asians, I'd be curious too. I don't know what, but everybody that I talked to that lived in Asia or has been from Asia, I say Asia very broadly. What I really mean is really friends that I've had in just Japan and Taiwan. I should say that. I don't know what other people feel like, but yeah, they all told me they hated South Korean people because they all act stuck up as fuck. And I was always like, what about like the World War II shit or whatever? Like, I don't know. I don't give a fuck about that. I was like, well, okay. Another surprising thing is when I talk to South Koreans, I always thought that, like, bro, in the United States, if you're Cuban and somebody escapes from Cuba, or at least back in the day, probably still today, Cuban people are gonna be like, oh my God, you got out, hell yeah, like come celebrate with us, like holy shit, you escaped, you know, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And I would ask like South Koreans, like, it must be like awesome when you guys like see like North Koreans here because they like escaped and shit. And I'm like, no, actually, they kind of talk different. You can tell who they are, and we all kind of bully those people because they're kind of weird, and we don't really like them that much. I'm like, oh, okay, well that's kind of sad. I thought you guys would like be really happy that they got out. Like, no, they're just kind of weird. I'm like, okay. My opinions, by the way, that I've heard, maybe those aren't representative. Maybe there's just a few people I've talked to. I don't know how like generally true these are, but these are like areas where like as an American, I would have assumed one thing, and then like some people tell me things that like the way different. I'm like, oh, okay, Jesus. Or maybe it was just Lily that hates North Korea. I'm just kidding. In a video game, 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 guys.
I just had to jump in because I feel like every now and then when I react to things that you're saying, some idiot will go into your chat and like telephone it, and it's not what I. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah.
I was saying I don't think you need to bite the bullet on calling yourself Islamophobic. That's my take.
Oh, sure.
At least based on how you rationalize it.
Sure. Do you want me to give what I think your argument is, and then we can disagree, or we're gonna have a discussion on it? Are you gonna say something along the lines of like, usually when people call themselves Islamophobic, they're talking about hating like actual Muslims and all the cultural aspects attached to it. And when you call yourself Islamophobic, it's making you sound way more hateful than you actually are. If you just want to criticize the religion, you can criticize the religion, but calling yourself Islamophobic in modern parlance is basically the equivalent of calling yourself like racist or hateful of a group of people that might not even have like the extremist religious beliefs you're criticizing.
Yeah, like, especially in Europe, like. Islamophobic doesn't mean you're an atheist who hates all the religions. Islamophobic means you want to deport them or like block immigration or ban the niqabs and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's probably fair. I was just feeling edgy that day.
That was easy.
Yeah.
Destroyed. Shagged. I was watching your talk with Benny Morris.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting. What do you think about him saying that he didn't believe Arafat didn't start the Intifada?
I thought it was interesting. I don't think I've ever seen strong evidence that he like started and like coordinated it, more so that he might have been aware of it and kind of maybe instigating it, but those are only just like a collection of quotes from people. I think that there are a few things that it would have been really fun to fight in depth with Benny on, but I wanted to cover so much ground. I didn't have a chance to like really dig into it. That would have been kind of an interesting thing to dig into. Something that would have been more interesting to dig into was the role of religion at the beginning of the conflict, because he seems to believe that it played, I think, a larger role than I thought it did, and he probably knows way more than me. That would have been interesting to talk about more. And I think there were one or two other things that would have been interesting to mine more on.
Yeah, I know he has this I think it's a more recent position where he talks about the role of jihad in Palestinian versus Israeli stuff, and like usually referring back to Arab leaders even from the 40s who referenced jihad, and I even read a paper today that mentioned it from 48, so I was like, okay.
Sure.
But I don't really know how far that goes, because I wonder if he, or I guess you would disagree, that it feels like at least until the 80s, basically all the hatred against Israel was like mostly rooted in like nationalism, right? Like pan-Arab nationalism and anti-Semitism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that is frustrating, especially as you learn more about a thing, is, and I've run into this issue a lot, is I hate arguing against quotes. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
Because someone will be like, this is what they wanted to do. Here's the quote. And I'm like, okay, well, what did the whole government do? What happened afterwards? Why would he have said that particular thing? Fuentes said something once I thought was an intelligent way of phrasing things, and I wish it was in regards to, I don't remember who was speaking, but Fuentes said something like, I think it was about Putin. Fuentes said, obviously, when Putin speaks, he's lying, but it's important to look at why he's telling the lie that he is. It was something akin to that. And I'm like, yes, Jesus, I don't know why nobody understands this. Like when certain leaders speak, sometimes they're doing propaganda or they're lying or whatever, but it's not random. They're not speaking randomly. They're saying things for a particular purpose. So yeah, it's not surprising that some people might say, like Netanyahu has crazy quotes from all the beginning of his being in public office, but the Netanyahu in 95 was way more restricted by the desire of the Israeli people and his government than the Netanyahu we see today. So you can't take the quotes from then. It's like, oh, well, look, he did all the same things then he was doing today. Well, no, he was a part of a different government, you know?
Yeah, that's why I always would hesitate on the Arafat thing as well, because even though at the time, like for some reason, I have this like animal brain that really can't fight off the fact that his fucking wife said that he was starting an intifada. But then I'm like, again, it doesn't really match up with any of the facts of the time. His wife hated him.
Sure.
There are potential contexts where she could be paraphrasing something that actually does make sense.
Yeah. Also, to be fair, I don't think that quote was him telling her he's starting this thing. I think his quote was something like, "Stay in Paris. It's going to get dangerous here." I think something like that.
Yeah, which makes a lot more sense because people in his own party kind of, like militants within his own party kind of were gearing up to that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot less surprising. Do you get the impression, and people are complaining about this in my community as well, that there's a bit of too much of a Venn diagram between people who are shitting on the like pro-Hamas leftists or like a bit more sympathetic to Israel and Islamophobia?
Yeah, like, bro, you overlap with like so many horrible groups in this conflict, in my opinion. Like, yeah, you can very quickly get to like hyper Islamophobic positions by being pro-Israeli here, or by talking about really all of the Palestinians, but especially like Hamas or some of the more radical aspects. But that gets also the same on the other side, where, and I'm being very careful about this now, especially because I've seen how much this has bit me in the ass before. Like, I believe that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. I think these two things are different, but oh my God, does one bleed into the other incredibly quickly. Yeah, it's just frustrating that, yeah.
Yeah, I think I even got the impression from Benny Morris a little bit as well, because I think he told you why they can't coexist, right? Because of different cultures, different languages, different histories, and all that. Like, but then I think which is probably fair to say, but the example he brought up was Palestinians doing honor killings.
Yeah.
But then I looked up the polling on that, and apparently, like a pretty large majority, this from 2019, of Palestinians do believe that honor killing is like a heinous crime. Like, it's just not the best. I think there are other countries where there are higher rates of people who believe in that, but as far as Palestinians go, I don't think they've really ever had a broad interest in like honor killings. So yeah, I don't know. And I occasionally, from watching Benny Morris lectures, I get the feeling that he kind of doesn't really like Muslims. Yeah, I don't know.
That's possible, but also, I mean, he's Jewish, so I don't know how much that plays into it as well.
Yeah, and I think
not just Jewish, he's Israeli as well. So yeah, sorry.
I think he's one of those examples of people like I think he lost I think he might have lost people that he knew in the Second Intifada. That's what I was told, and then that's when his politics started to get a little bit more, a little bit less neutral sounding, but
possibly, yeah.
Are you still doing that much on Israel-Palestine, or have you kind of moved on?
I think I'm gonna start doing January 6th research next, because I have a Austin debate against Alex Jones and Glenn Greenwald about January 6th shit, which will be Jesus. We're probably gonna start.
What was the TLDR of your whatever the fuck that Pisco debate was, or? Because I was listening in a little bit.
A long time ago, I thought that Donald Trump had f***ed up the Capitol Police response. I thought that everybody was waiting on him to approve stuff, and he didn't do anything because he's a piece of shit. But then I had that strong opinion. I remember who argued me on this, but somebody sent me an email, or some conservative somebody, and said that this isn't true, and I'm making all of this up. And then I went to do research. Oh, actually, this might have been after. Wait, was I living in Nebraska for January 6th? There's no way. It was that long ago.
It was 2020.
What are we in now? 2023?
Yeah. 2024 almost.
I feel like I remember.
But it was at the end of 2020, wasn't it?
I feel like I remember arguing with Lauren Southern.
No, it was the beginning. Shit.
When I was in my Nebraska house about how many protesters died on January 6th. I must not have been. I had to have been in California. But I originally thought it was 5 or 6 people like got killed basically, and the real answer is like 1 or maybe 2. Yeah. So after that, I started to be like really careful on my fact checking on everything, because now I was really irritated after that debate. And yeah, that was the Donald Trump mucking up everything was one of the big things that came up. And when I tried to look at like, okay, well, how did Donald Trump fuck up? Yeah, I couldn't find that information anywhere. And then the more that I looked, it seemed like there was a huge optics nightmare after Trump's deployment of the National Guard for either photo ops or because of George Floyd shit, where people were really trying hard to avoid that. And everywhere I looked in terms of like testimony and everything else, that seemed to overwhelmingly be what everybody on the ground was blaming for the situation being so fucked. I couldn't find a single credible person other than like politicians on the day of being like, where's Donald Trump? It didn't seem like anybody saying like, yeah, Donald Trump fucked this up. It seemed like a huge bureaucratic fuck up in response to the bad optics of the deployment of the National Guard prior to this. That's what it seemed to be. And now I feel even further in for it. I'm almost positive that is the case now after reading all this. But yeah.
I feel like from a while ago, wasn't it that there was like a Democrat called Bowser?
Yeah,
Muriel
she's
Bowser?
the mayor of
Okay.
DC, yes.
Okay. Was she the one who failed to get the National Guard or just didn't do it or what?
I mean, I'm kind of harsh when I'm saying I blame her, but like she very explicitly the day before was saying like, do not send more. We do not need help. We have this under control. Like just, and even the National Guard people they did draft in, I think we're just doing like traffic shit. I don't even know if any of those National Guards that were drafted in under the MPD's authority, I don't even think they were at the Capitol. But yeah, it was all because everybody was so worried about the optics of Trump's military in the Capitol when the day of the certification. People were thinking he was gonna like steal the fucking ballot box or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think she just said she didn't expect them to try to overthrow the Capitol building. Like she just thought they would be like cop-loving right-wingers, right?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know about that, but
Like, what's the whole debate going to be about with the Colorado Supreme Court stuff now? I looked into it for like a couple of maybe like an hour, and I just got sucked down this rabbit hole of like whether or not the President of the United States is considered an office holder because of the 14th Amendment. So I did some notes on that, and then I got bored. So shit.
like the founding fathers like wrote some of the coolest things of all time in the United States, but it seems like at points they wrote just like some of the most ambiguously weird shit sometimes. I don't understand how that 14th Amendment shit is supposed to play out. Who the knows? The Supreme Court's gonna have to rule on that one soon, but we also need like 2 or 3 different huge court cases to also end soon, and I don't know where the fuck that's going to be. Like, we need to know an answer to the 2 federal charges, the one, well, the whatever, but like the federal thing over whether or not Trump defrauded the American public on the vote, and the RICO case in Georgia, and the federal thing about the classified information. We need like answers on this, and we're like a month away from the fucking primaries in Iowa, and I don't know what the that's going to look like. That's like insane that these ongoing court cases are happening while we're voting for like the next president of the United States, you know?
Yeah, that's fun. I feel like America's still, it's felt like there's been a bit of breathing space with Biden back in, but then like underneath all that, you still have this kind of existential fucking problem with half of the political parties not really doing things properly, you know?
What do you mean by that?
Like the fact that the Republican leader is someone who might have, incited a insurrection, who might have broken the law in all these different ways, who might not even be qualified to stand for president, and it's just like,
oh, you're talking about Donald Trump.
Like
The Republicans lost their mind. But you know, that's on them. They deserve what they got coming, I guess. Yeah.
Isn't Biden quite low in the polls right now, though?
Yeah, Biden's popularity is completely. But I mean, like, who knows why, or who knows how that's going to turn out, or it's hard to say. Like, because are we still doing good in like special elections, I think, for Democrats, so it doesn't seem to be affecting them there. It's also hard to tell. Like, there's been this huge ongoing debate in America about like this fucking shadow recession or whatever, or like the vibe session, where like there's a lot of people on social media, a lot of Americans are saying the economy's horrible, it's blah blah blah, and like economists are like scouring so much different data, like trying to figure out like where is it actually bad for people, like how do you see this? It's not reflected in mortgage payments and percentage of mortgage homeownership, and possibly not in wage growth. Maybe it is in year-over-year cumulative inflation. Maybe like it's just so hard to figure out like why the sentiments of Americans on the economy are so bad. It's hard to figure that out. So I don't know what the White House is trying to do about that or anything too, so who knows.
I mean, I feel like we just had a basic like a cost of living crisis. Isn't it the same over there? That like energy bills and food and everything is just a lot more expensive now than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that seems to be the case, but I don't know if in terms of like whether or not wages are outpacing that and everything, like people are just, because wages have also grown a lot as well, and it's just everything's just hard to figure out. But looking at the numbers, so I'm not sure. I don't know. So it's hard to find it in the data. Is the difficulty. But like other people are like
people
offering
are struggling,
these, like,
but people don't know why.
Well, I don't even know if people are struggling. I don't know if that is even born anywhere. People just feel shitty. I don't know if like or somebody can look that up. If like foreclosures are up, or like unemployment is really like wage growth is happening. I don't know if people are struggling. I don't know if that exists anywhere.
I don't really pay that much attention to like finance stuff. I just I make enough to survive, and I'm usually happy. But like I did remember looking once, and I was like, I actually spend a lot monthly. Like I've got a lot of monthly standing orders that just kind of go on random shit, like subscriptions and like music production stuff and like just various things like that, or like Netflix or whatever. And I'm like, I guess that never really used to be the case, did it? For like even 15 years ago, you didn't like the amount of monthly little bills that you've got. Is that the case though? Are people just maybe spending money without realizing they are, and that's why they feel like they're financially?
Yeah, like as stupid and as like unsophisticated as that sounds, Noah wrote a big article that like there might be really weird things like that are happening. So for instance, you'll see that like people are spending more on food than they were prior to this. So it seems like food spending is totally fine. But then it might be the case that because more people are ordering on things like DoorDash or they're eating out, and because companies have gotten better at like targeting consumers with like these hyper specific like triple deluxe cheeseburger extra bonus packages, that even though people are spending more, and even though the CPI seems to show that like inflation or these indexes are good, they're spending more money on kind of the same stuff, but a little bit more, but not something. There's like a lot of weird things that oh, I'm sorry, Nate Silver wrote that article, in my opinion. Yeah, that like maybe there's a lot of weird things like that are going on that are hard to check in, for consumer spending. So,
because I feel like 10, 15 years ago, you just didn't spend that much on that kind of stuff, like deliveries and monthly payments for all these like different subscriptions. I feel like those two things just didn't exist. But God, if that explains,
I don't know if that explains everything or not, but it's like I said, it's hard. Like for instance, and there's a whole bunch of people in chat that keep saying this. Just to remind you guys, if you're watching my stream right now, you are part of the privileged middle class that when I was poor I hated, and now that I'm rich I hate you too. Okay, I've always hated you. Okay, the middle class is the worst group of any people in all of the economy. All of you, okay? So for all of you guys calling me privileged, blah, 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 you're just as privileged as me, probably more privileged than I was at whatever age you are. You suck a dick. A big one. But yeah, I think like one of the worries that people had is that like, well, because of the vibe session, because it's like so like even if there isn't a real economic crisis, like holiday spending is going to be because people are going to be saving money because they're so worried about the economy. And it seems to be the case that didn't happen. It seems like holiday spending and everything is right where it's supposed to be, or up a little bit. Maybe I can check real quick. So all these people in chat saying like, oh, that's the bougie take. Like, oh, that's not true. The bourgeois, blah, blah, blah. But no, it seems like most Americans are spending, I think is what I saw before, are spending a lot of money. Oh, I'm sorry, Jesus. 2023, this is a month ago. This is 2023 holiday to reach record spending levels. I don't know if we were still on track for that or if that changed recently, but yeah, so it seems like, a lot of people are still spending money on shit, and I don't know.
There's no way that like there could be an economic crisis that actually just the people need to bootstrap their ways out of it, right?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if people are having to bootstrap anything, because when people say that like the economy sucks right now, it's bad. When you say it's bad, like what does that mean? Because everybody
they might
like
just be fine. Okay.
Yeah, because like they might have like they're owning homes at the appropriate rate. Like the wage growth is about where it should be. Year over year inflation has come down. Like everything seems to be tracking.
I mean, when you're in your early 20s, like people would always say they were skint, but they never actually were, right?
Would always
like,
say they were what?
Broke. Sorry.
No UK slang in here, loser. We're always raised broke. Wait, I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
When I was in my early 20s, I noticed this thing, or that people would always say they were broke, but they weren't. That was just like a thing you said.
Oh,
you would just talk about
people have like different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fuck.
That's aren't high housing prices the problems among millennials? I don't actually know if that's true, because it seems like millennials and Zoomers are like owning homes at an appropriate rate compared to even baby boomers before then. It seems like home ownership is right where it's supposed to be.
Wow.
Holiday spending, FT. Let me see if I can find right now. News, holiday spending. Hold on. Somebody in YouTube chat said Destiny has no clue. Holiday spending is down like 30% this year. Is that true? Can you show me that anywhere? I just Googled quick, fox10phoenix.com. Holiday spending expected to break record this year. I don't know. There's a random fucking local news website. Does anybody have a link to this? Somebody said Destiny's officially out of touch. Yeah, people spam that over and over and over and over and over again, but nobody can show like how the fuck where are the problems? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a hard one, but
I don't know. I swear in the UK, stuff in the shops just went fucking mental. But I mean, our inflation in the last couple of years was, I think, one of the worst in the developed world. So
Yeah, but I think
different.
even when people try to compare your economic sentiments to U.S. ones on inflation, Americans feel worse about inflation than I think every other country in the G7. I think, even though our inflation I think
Even though
was
it's
better
lower,
than
yeah.
every other country. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah.
I mean, that just makes sense, though, right? Like Americans. They can't
Show
handle
you,
as much.
motherfucker, leave your gated community and go outside. I mean, I can go outside. Scene. Tell me what I'm supposed to look for. Tell me, please. Let me know.
Our inflation was 11% at the end of 2022. A 41-year high. Yeah, that was hard times. Shit. Okay.
Is it?
I think I'm going to go to bed.
Okay. Wait, where do you live? You're in the UK?
Scotland. Yeah.
Jesus. It's like 3 a.m. for you or whatever, right?
Yeah, well, my next video took me down like a massive rabbit hole, so I've been reading quite a lot, and it just kind of threw me off.
What's your next thing?
Do you know a creator called Traveling Israel?
Yeah.
He does this video about 1948, and it's like debunking a Vox video. The problem is like he says a lot of things. He seems to know a lot of details, but I kind of realized that like a lot of them are wrong, and I was trying to figure out where he got them from because he doesn't cite that much. And he was doing this bit about the Deir Yassin massacre and his whole thing about how actually it wasn't as bad as you make it out to be. They actually gave like a warning on a loudspeaker, and those villagers had broken the peace pact beforehand anyway, so like it was going to happen anyway. But and it was really difficult to find, like, because you know how people talk about the new historians, right? And I'm like, so obviously before the new historians, there must have been like the old historians where people just said,
I think
like,
I think it was literally like
mad
oral
shit.
history and shit, right?
Yeah. And like a lot of it was just government stuff. It was like the government would put out pamphlets and stuff like that, or just the memoirs of the people involved. So I did so much digging to find out where he was getting these talking points from. I ended up at like a foreign ministry article, like a pamphlet that was distributed in the 1960s and was passed around by a few outlets. Then I went further back, and eventually I got to a memoir, like an autobiography by Menachem Begin, the leader of the terrorist group that did the massacre at Deir Yassin. And the guy was just citing, he has like 2 pages of his memoir in 1950, 2 years after the massacre, describing his version of the events. And Traveling Israel was just like doing it word for word. So
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, that was quite, and there's like, it's like that for about 5 different things. So yeah, that's been pretty wild. And I'm also an ADHD med, so that's cool.
What
But
the
they do keep
fuck?
longer.
Jesus. We'll just take them earlier in the day.
I mean, I do, but they're like, you know, they're the slow releases and they last 8 hours. But even like 15 or 16 hours after that, it's, I don't know, I still feel like awake. You
When
know?
did you start taking
Do
it?
you? 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow. It
But
took me
I'm
like
on,
3 or 4 days to adjust. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on Ritalin though, not Vyvanse.
Oh, that's really weird. Because Ritalin,
You know, there's a Vyvanse shortage in the UK.
that's not surprising. They made it generic, so I think there's a Vyvanse shortage everywhere because they cut production. So
Oh, how long did it take you to realize that it was like helping?
I had a friend let me try their prescription for like I think 7 or 8 days. For the first 2 days, I was just high as f- and then days 3 and onwards, I felt a huge help.
I think I'm on like maybe just under 50 milligrams now of Ritalin. It's like 3 tablets.
Jesus.
They don't feel like that much. Doesn't feel like that much is going on.
Okay. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Ritalin is methylphenidate. I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure. I can't speak
Yeah.
to that. I've only tried amphetamines. I haven't tried the methylphenidate.
Yeah, because that one's methylphenidate. It's not a amphetamine, is it? It's just like in a similar family.
Yeah,
is that right?
it's a stimulant still. It works a little bit differently, but
Yeah.
What are you?
Interesting.
Oh yeah, if you're trying, it's not working. You're talking to your doctor, or whatever.
Yeah, we're going through some different things, and definitely like the whole thing of like melatonin as well, because melatonin is prescription in the UK. You can't just get it over the counter.
Jeez.
Yeah, and if you're private, you have to pay like I think like £15 for like a small bottle of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know why over the border, like in Europe, you can just go to a supermarket and buy it off the shelf for like nothing. So, but then that whole thing is like figuring out that a whole tablet you up the next day and you have to like cut it in half, and
Yeah.
it's a whole journey.
Why do you? Did they say why they prescribed you Ritalin instead of like Adderall or Dexedrine or Vyvanse or?
They said that Vyvanse would be preferred, but it's the shortage, so they just put me on Ritalin instead just to start with and just see. But I think I'd probably try other ones as we go along.
Did they say why they did Ritalin over Adderall?
Actually, no.
Because if they said that Vyvanse is a better drug, Vyvanse is an amphetamine. I don't know why they wouldn't do another amphetamine like Adderall XR instead of the Ritalin. But they might have reasons for it. I don't know. Or maybe
I have no
Adderall doesn't
idea.
exist in the UK. Actually, I have no idea. I'm not sure.
There's a few drugs that you guys have that we don't. Yeah.
Like, I think you guys don't technically have Vyvanse over there. You have like Evansi or some bullshit, or at least in Sweden.
It's
maybe.
called Evans, yeah. And it's like because with the diagnosis, the way they do it here is like there's like hyperactivity and there's whichever the other one is that has to do with daydreaming, that kind of thing.
That's weird. Okay.
The two categories, the two like broad categories.
Okay.
But like I'm quite high on both of them, but the hyperactivity is a bit lower. The main problem is like inattentive. That's it. Yeah, inattentive. I am off the chart. I'm fucking riddled. So I don't know if it's to do with that. Like some are better for one or the other. I don't know.
Well, damn.
Yeah.
Well,
So I don't know why 10,000 people needed to know my life story, but okay.
well, now we
Listen.
got it. Yeah. Wait, what did you say?
I hope you-
What was the next project? Oh, you said it was the traveling Israel guy.
Yeah, that guy's weird. I don't know, but he's like his little 20-minute video just sent me on a absolute spiral. I've read like 4 or 5 papers, grabbed like 2 because I can't refer to pro-Palestine sources like to anti-Zionist sources if I'm gonna like appeal to anyone who watches that guy, right? Like to anyone who's pro-Israel. So I'm gonna do this whole thing where like I'm gonna debunk this guy using only Zionist sources. So it's like a lot of Benny Morris. I've got his Righteous Victims book, and I've got like the birth the Palestinian refugee problem. And Benny Morris just doesn't really market himself to the public very well. His books are very long and very
if you're
dispassionate.
doing something like this, maybe something that would help is I might be making this up, but I thought I heard Benny Morris give an interview very recently where he said he might have said this in my interview. I think he said he's working on a new book where he's just cataloging like all of the early massacres. I think pre-48 maybe.
Oh.
That would help. I don't know when that book's supposed to come out though, so it might be a while, but
Yeah, I was thinking of even getting him onto my channel because I was watching him talking to you. I thought there was like there were quite a few things that I just like felt, oh, actually, I'd really like to ask him this. Yeah. I'd really want to know, and I've never found a good answer for this, is how historians decide whether or not they think like rapes happened in a particular massacre or event, right?
yeah.
Because obviously in general it's a very hard crime to prove anyway, and in history you've got even less evidence. Like you rarely have access to the bodies, and you don't you're going off of like witness testimony, and sometimes it's witness testimony of people who don't want to talk because they're so traumatized. And I think the longer it takes for a witness to speak, the less credible their opinions become because of like rumors spreading or bad memories and all that kind of stuff. So, but then also it seems to be that from reading like Morris and Pape and people like that, it seems like a lot of these ones that happened in 1948 were a lot of it is oral testimony, but historians are fine to go with that as long as like it matches more or less, like as long as enough witnesses from different places are saying roughly the same thing, or there's usually some document that'll have someone from the Haganah or Irgun or someone saying that they saw it happen, because apparently like they just kept all of that.
Yeah.
And it was interesting comparing that to the standard of evidence people are placing on rapes on October 7th.
It's kind of related to that. It's kind of funny. We were reading something relating to the civil war and everything going on in Lebanon and Israel being up there. And I think it was on Wikipedia referencing a book or a speech one of the things we read was that, was this Yom Kippur? I don't remember. It might have been Yom Kippur, but I think it was like something like a Syrian fighter was like so brave that he like, what was it, guys? That he like drank the blood of like 20 Israeli prisoners of war, like as they sat on the ground, like tied up. Like that was how, I think that was how an Israeli prime minister put it, or that was how like some Israeli war general, I don't remember who it was, but I read the statement. I was like, that's wild. And I was like, hold on. And I think we probably spent like an hour trying to find the source of this statement. And we went through like a book and then like a speech and then like another reference until we could finally like find the original Syrian Gazette like newspaper that sourced it. And like I think the original claim was literally like I think it was like I think like a Palestinian fought off like 3 Israelis with an axe and he like bit the last dude in the neck or broke his arm. Like that was like what the newspaper had actually said. But the difference between that and like playing telephone to the original article I was like, what the I thought that was funny. So yeah, I can't imagine like trying to verify. And that's what that was written. That was written down in a paper. So like when it comes to like oral history, yeah, I'm very curious in what you're saying there. Like how the do you trust like any kind of oral history? That seems wild.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading it now. It's what the militiamen who stabbed puppies and drank their blood.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
The girls bit the snakes and ate them. He applauded what the oh, this is Ba'ath Party. Okay, Ba'ath Youth Militia from Syria. Oh, this article is by Benjamin Netanyahu in New York Times, 1983.
Wait,
Okay.
in reference to what I was just saying, that thing that you just read, or?
I just Googled Syrians drinking blood or whatever, and this is him talking about, what is he talking about here?
Because it might have been Netanyahu that had originally, yeah, that might, okay, it might have been in Assyrians, right?
Yeah, the Ba'ath Youth Militia, yeah.
Maybe it might have been his quote even originally, but when I tried to find the source for that, yeah, it was quite a bit different then, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like these are the last people you should be going to for testimony of that kind of shit.
Sure.
It's actually also people puffing themselves up, like the perpetrators. So I guess Benny Morris mentioned this as well. He said that Deir Yassin, the big massacre, because it was one of the early ones, happened before the official war, and that was the one that got so many people to start fleeing, the news spreading of that. And even Benny Morris told you that it was initially exaggerated by the Arabs, which it was. But again, like I read this from Benny Morris, is like the reason it was exaggerated, the first reason, was that the initial report actually came from the Irgun. They said that they had killed 250 people, whereas it was actually more like 100.
Yeah, Jesus,
and
fuck,
the
yeah.
Irgun put out a press release, and they said they put the press release out with that higher number because they wanted to get Arabs to be demoralized and to flee.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and then the British accepted that number, the Arabs accepted it, and I think they added a few embellishments, but that was more or less what they accepted. And yeah, but that people, the traveling Israel guy and like people like that will miss that bit out. They'll just say, "Oh, the Arabs exaggerated, and that's why people fled." But it's like, well, why did they? Yeah, but like everyone exaggerated, it seems. And it was only in 1987. When 2 Palestinian scholars went about to name all the people who died, and they found the number was 107, and that's the number that people go with today.
Gotcha.
But
Nice.
Israel accepted that inflated number for like decades. Yeah.
Jesus.
Anyway, I hope you have a good Christmas. Are you streaming or what are you doing?
Yeah, I'll probably stream. Maybe go to my parents and eat. But yeah.
Cool. Okay. I'm sure I'll see you at some point afterwards.
Yeah. I love you, buddy. Be careful.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye, DGG.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
It's not Diana, obviously. My name is Simone. Diana is one of my best friends, and people often get the two of us mixed up, so maybe that's something. As you might know, last year Diana got COVID, and over the last couple of months, she's slowly gotten worse to the point where her condition has become potentially life-threatening.
Oh, this is a 9-month-old video. Why'd you link me this? Yeah, her shit is fucked.
How are you feeling? Hold on, sorry.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, first of all, not a doctor. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. Okay. For some reason, they keep saying that she had long COVID or long COVID did this or blah, or COVID, blah, 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 or whatever. I believe that her issue is she developed something called chronic fatigue syndrome, which is incredibly scary and incredibly weird. And my understanding is that basically, like, if you get any sort of viral infection, in really, really, really rare cases, I think you can just develop chronic fatigue syndrome, which is where you're just like basically tired and have to sleep all day, like sometimes for the rest of your life. And it's like, I'm laughing, but it's not. It's really tragic and really. I don't think we know much about like where it comes from or why anything is happening with this. But yeah, there's an update from 3 days ago. I don't know why everybody's linking this. If she's still at CFS, the update is probably just she's in bed and she's still in bed and she's still tired and we don't know what's happening.
I've got
Is it different? Oh, good news. I'm sorry, never mind. Maybe they cured it. My bad. Maybe they figured something out. I don't even know if there is a cure.
And it's a little complicated, but I would love to explain it to you. My name's Destin, by the way. I have a YouTube channel called Smarter Every Day, and this is Physics Girl. This is Diana's channel. And recently, I went to visit Diana. And I did this for many reasons, and I intended on doing it in secret and not telling anyone I was doing it, because Diana and I are friends in real life. So just a little bit of background. Way back in the day, I had some work out in Hawaii. I went and visited Diana's dad. Just don't understand. But ill. She got long COVID not long after her wedding, and now she has a variety of diagnoses, and there's a lot of letters that I don't understand. But what I do know is that my friend, Diana, she called me a while back, and she had a question, and this was not long after she had gotten sick. And I could tell that she was struggling with something. She said, hey, Destin, I might have a hard time remembering this conversation because of all these reasons. And I was like, no problem, Diana. You're Diana, I'm Destin, we're buddies. I love you. So of course, it doesn't matter. Just whatever. I'm here with you no matter what.
Is this the girl you quote tweeted about long COVID? I think so, yeah.
Slowly, Diana's health started to decline. And as I watched everything unfold over social media, like most of you did, I became worried about my friend, and I was concerned. And specifically, I was concerned that she seemed to be laying in the bed a lot, and I was concerned that she was becoming weak. And I didn't understand the situation. If you've ever done caretaking in your family, it's a big deal. We've had some caretaking situations in our family, and one of the biggest things you want to do is make sure that people are trying to get strong.
Do you think any part of long COVID is psychological? No, I think that viral interactions in the body can sometimes be complicated or weird or cause weird things to happen that we don't actually understand. I don't know if long COVID is actually a thing or not. I don't know if it's a real thing. But I do know that sometimes you get a viral infection. After the infection, there can be weird lingering damages or conditions or things that happen that we don't quite understand yet. So I think like irritable bowel syndrome. Irritable bowel syndrome is like a thing where you just have issues with your bowels, but like nobody knows what it is or what causes it, or if it's even like a disease or condition. I think like CFS is like that. It's like it's just like for some reason after some viral infections, people will get super fucked for a long time or something. But it's not, like CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome is not like a identifiable disease. It's like, oh, you've been diagnosed with like this disease of CFS. We're just trying to figure it out. I think it's just like you've got like a set of conditions and we have no idea why or what's causing it. But like, this is basically what happens. Like irritable bowel syndrome, I think.
Stronger and doing all the things necessary to get stronger. And so over social media, it's been unclear to me what's going on with Diana's health. And so
kind of like ADHD, I don't understand what the comparison is there. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects different areas of the brain. No, ADHD is nothing. ADHD is a specific diagnosis with specific underlying conditions that I have no idea what the comparison there was, but okay. I thought IBS was often explained by cilia in your intestines getting fucked and then not being able to digest food properly because the surface area shrinks a fuck ton. I haven't heard that, but no, I don't believe that's true. I'm pretty sure irritable bowel syndrome is not a specific disease or diagnosis. We don't know what causes IBS. It's just like a thing. You just like you don't know what is wrong with the person, but they got a set of symptoms, and yeah. What are the odds that you shat on her and she ended up being really sick and not Twitter sick? I don't know. Find the tweet. I'm guessing if I tweeted at her a long time ago, I think that I think my issue was her calling it long COVID, which I thought was really stupid. Yeah.
I talked to my wife, Tara, and I said, I really want to go see Diana. I want to sit in the room with her and hold her hand. And she said, absolutely. And so I texted Diana and tried to figure out what made sense for her. And Diana put me in touch with her husband, Kyle. Now, I met Kyle once, and we didn't know each other that well. But I started talking to Kyle, and I said, hey, do you think this is something that's possible? And he welcomed it. And
ADHD can be accurately tested for. Yes, there are some, I think, definitive tests for ADHD, and it's like an autopsy of the brain and like measuring like different parts of your brain to see if you've got like the neurodevelopmental delays, but inadequacies, I guess. But obviously you have to kill somebody to do that, so.
We figured it out, and it was a little dicey because I didn't know if Diana would be up for a visitor on the day that I arrived.
Could be wrong, but you said something to the effect of, hold on. Okay, this link is not loading. Oh, here's a tweet. She said, 6 months ago today I got COVID. Today I can't shower standing up, can't do video calls, can't read books, can't drive, but I'm still fighting to recover. And my quote tweet was, every progressive got long COVID from the virus and every conservative got myocarditis from the vaccine. Just kill me, LOL. Based. I do think calling her condition or whatever long COVID is fucking stupid. And I feel like they were doing that a lot early on. I think it was really dumb, but yeah. After looking, I think you're right. And the celiac thing is from celiacs and a consequence of them being destroyed by gluten, which creates IBS symptoms. But IBS doesn't have to have that happen. Yeah, I think IBS is just like it can be a weird thing sometimes, unfortunately. Where I don't think the tweet said it was long COVID. She implied it was a result of COVID. You can go back and like dig through tweets, but I'm almost positive that for a long time she was calling this long COVID. You can detect ADHD with an EEG non-invasive. Never heard that in my life. Maybe, but I've never heard that
where she lives. And we just said, you know what? We're going to roll the dice. We're going to play it by ear and see what happens. And so, sure enough, I arrived. And I asked Kyle, what do you think, man? He's like, come on. And so I didn't know what to expect. But what I saw when I walked in their place encouraged me. And it encouraged me for many reasons. First of all, I saw Kyle. I saw Kyle in the living room, I'll call it, out front. And he was clearly tired. Clearly, that unmistakable, what's the word? I mean, just like determination of a caretaker that I've seen before on my own family members. And I saw this person, I was like, Kyle, like, I'm so impressed by you. You're like, this is, just meeting Kyle in the situation, in situ, was encouraging. And I started talking to him about what was going on, and he was telling me about all the great things going on in Diana's life. He was telling me about the challenges as well.
Wait, hold on. Shit. People are quoting things that I probably should have permabanned these people. True.
And then somewhere along the conversation, he said, oh, I've got to get up.
This girl's sus as hell? Wait, what's sus about her condition?
Time to cook. And Kyle gets up and he goes over and there's just stacks and stacks of papers and he's got checklists. Kyle's an engineer. He's got checklists of how he keeps up with Diana's day and how he has a plan to help her get better. And he's working the plan. And just seeing those physical pieces of paper with checklists and boxes, and like he was engineering everything he could do for his spouse's well-being and care. And that encouraged me. And we still didn't know if I was going to get to go to the back room and see Diana or not, but just seeing Kyle in his element. And I actually filmed a little bit of Kyle cooking, and I thought you might want to see that.
So what is this?
So this is chia seeds soaked in water. And then I got coconut milk, and I'll put in some hemp seeds as well and just blend that together. So she's basically on the way we described it is like a low histamine keto diet. So high fat, high protein, low carb, whole food, whatever, and that's basically, what she eats. So this thing is obviously a lot of calories, a lot of fat and proteins, but it tastes like cardboard.
It tastes like cardboard. Oh wow, that's chunky.
And the seeds are all chopped up, so easy on the digestion.
Sweet.
So what struck me.
Is this a progressive person on Twitter or just a STEM person? Not familiar with tweets. I don't know if she's not like a progressive. I don't think she's like very political. She just did she had a YouTube channel that did like physics stuff, like really popular. I think she had over 2 million subs. I don't know how much she's gained through being sick, but yeah, she was like very active and then, yeah. But this chronic fatigue syndrome is like no one knows, and then you just like you have a disease, you'll have like an infection, and then in the recovery process you just get like really tired, and then you're just like fucked for years or the rest of your life or weeks. Like it's just like the lamest shit in the world. I don't know if people ever recover from CFS. I thought they do randomly, but I remember some anti-vaxxers claim her condition was caused by the vaccine instead of COVID. Was that true? I have never in my life heard of vaccines being linked to CFS. Never in my life have I heard that. Do you regret quote tweeting her in particular? I mean, not as much. I don't think her condition is long COVID or anything to do with that, but. Have you heard about the hygiene hypothesis of the prevalence of autoimmune disorders in developed nations? It's the idea that we develop these powerful immune systems in Western medicine and modern hygiene standards are sort of incompatible with it, and it causes them to essentially malfunction. Autoimmune disorders and allergies occur at much lower rates in third world countries or lesser developed areas. I don't even know if that's true. My understanding of how the immune system works is that none of that's true. The immune system is not a muscle. You don't have to practice it or else it forgets what it does. You've got a whole system in your body that's in charge of like identifying threats, the lymphatic system, like all of this shit just works works as it's supposed to. The only practice or training your immune system gets, I'm pretty sure, is like if it sees an infection, then it can fight the infection off in the future, but that's it. Like living in a clean environment doesn't necessarily make you prone to new infections in horrible ways, other than maybe you weren't exposed to prior infections. But yeah, I've never heard that in my entire... I mean, I hear conservatives say it all the time. That was a common thing when we did social distancing. Oh, your immune system needs practice. Not really. Against particular pathogens, yes, but not about... I don't believe that it matters if you're... or at least I've never heard that or seen that. Like... In modern medicine, the hygiene hypothesis that early childhood exposure to particular microorganisms such as the gut flora and helminth parasites protects against allergies by strengthening the immune system. In particular, a lack of such exposure is likely to lead to poor immune tolerance. The time period for exposure begins before birth and ends at school age. Well, something that I could see is that, like, maybe if you've never been exposed, I don't know the results. I don't know if there's like a data for this. Maybe if you like never been exposed to a peanut and then you see one for the first time, maybe like a lack of exposure to certain things that end up becoming like things you could develop allergy, maybe. But it's not just going to be like an overall exposure to like diseases or stuff like that, I don't believe. Aren't they recommending kids to eat peanuts at early ages to combat future allergies? Yeah, that... I'm trying to say that wouldn't surprise me, but would it surprise me? I'm not actually sure. I don't think I understand immunity enough to know why that would work. My understanding is that... I'm trying to think of what an allergy is. Isn't an allergy when your body identifies a foreign material as something that it needs to attack and destroy, and it'll begin an immune system response to attack and destroy it? But the thing is not usually harmful, and that's why we consider it like an allergy. But why would exposure to something at an early age reduce your body's desire to fight against it? Like, let's say, for instance, you were exposed to the flu early on over and over and over again. Well, your body's response to the flu would get like even more efficient, right? So why, but like if you were to expose yourself to a pathogen in early life, later on in life, your body would still have a stronger immune response against it. Why would exposing you against an allergen lead to a weaker immune response? I'm not sure, yeah. I'm finishing a PhD in immunology. Getting exposed to antigens during your younger years is very important to train your immune system for the later years, be it for tolerance or for immune memory. Yeah, but Pituku, your body doesn't know what's good or bad. Why would your body weaken an allergic response and strengthen an immuno response? Like, why? Destiny. Many systems in the body operate under a use it or lose it principle. Some do and some don't. You wouldn't just generalize that. The body makes mistakes. It's simple as fuck. That's what I was taught in my immunobiology course. To say that the body makes mistakes is a really philosophically weird thing to say. I don't know if you would ever say depending on how pedantic you get, the body doesn't really make mistakes. Like an allergic response is not a mistake. It's only a mistake because we deem it so, right? Your body identifies something. It says that this is a bad thing and we need to stir up an immune reaction to like repel this bad thing. Is that really a mistake? I mean, we say it's a mistake because it's identifying something that we don't want it to create an allergic response to. But I mean, how would the body ever know that's a mistake? Like, how could you ever train the body not to have an immune response to something that it wants to have an immune response to? How do you ever do that? Pituku responded, wait. They've done a study on peanut allergy. They looked at areas that banned peanut butter and skull. Hold on. We really don't know exactly how these things work, but in general, antigens taken up orally tend to induce tolerance, for example. Okay, let's look this up. Antigen. A toxin or other foreign substance which induces an immune response in the body, especially... Okay, so you're saying that if you eat antigens, you have less of an immune response? Consumption. Wait, hold on. The prevalence of peanut allergy among children in Western countries has doubled in the past 10 years. Peanut allergy is becoming apparent in Africa and Asia. We randomly assigned 640 infants with severe eczema, egg allergy, or both to consume or avoid peanuts until 6 months of age. Participants who were at least 4 months but younger than 11 months when age of randomization were assigned a separate study cohorts on the basis of pre-existing sensitivity to peanut extract to determine skin prick test. One consisting of participants with no measurable wheal after testing. The other consisting of among the 530 infants in the intention to treat population who intentionally had negative result from the skin prick test, the prevalence of peanut allergy at 60 months of age was 13.7% in the avoidance group and 1.9% in the consumption group. Among the 98 participants in the intention to treat population who initially had positive test results, the prevalence of peanut allergy was 35.3% in the avoidance group and 10.6% in the consumption group. There was no significance between group differences in the incidence of serious adverse events, increase in level of peanut consumption. Prominently, okay. What is the? I'm hoping that they're not like doing dumb things like attrition rate in here. I'm just so curious about what the underlying, like mechanism at play is, like what the explanation is. While early versions of the hypothesis refer to microorganism exposure in general, later versions apply to a specific set of microbes that have co-evolved with humans. The updates give a big including the microbiome depletion hypothesis, the microflora hypothesis, and the old friends hypothesis. A significant amount of evidence supporting the idea that lack of exposure to microbes is linked to allergies or other conditions, although it is still rejected by many scientists. The term hygiene hypothesis has been used to have a misnomer because people interpret it as referring to their own cleanliness. Destiny, apparently 49% of long COVID patients meet the criteria for ME/CFS. Why are you saying it's not long COVID? Because I don't even know if long COVID is like a real thing. It seems like for people that have quote unquote long COVID, a lot of them are probably just have CFS. But I don't like calling it long COVID because CFS is not unique to COVID. So it's weird to say that like, oh, that person has long COVID. When it's like, well, I think they just have like CFS, which happens under or after a variety of different viral infections, is my understanding. The CDC disagrees. Okay, well, the CDC can suck my dick. Doesn't it become pedantic at some point when a lot of syndromes are just a collection of symptoms that might not have any known underlying cause? Well, that's the point of a lot of them, right? It's like, I think somebody in YouTube chat said it's like a diagnosis of elimination or something. It's like basically like you have no idea what's wrong with the person. So you just say like, I'm sorry, like this is a syndrome you have, but nobody knows what's causing it or if anything's causing it or like at all, like what the underlying conditions are. Oh, a diagnosis of exclusion, maybe. Sorry.
Good morning. I just woke up. I can't even open my eyes. I have an ED, which stands for EP disorder. I'm so EP.
Oh my fucking God. There's a connection between COVID and multiple autoimmune disorders, not just CFS. That is long COVID. Okay. Here's my understanding, okay? After you are infected with COVID-19, there's a chance that a whole bunch of things can happen. An elevated risk of certain autoimmune diseases, a risk of scarring or issues with your lungs, permanent cardiovascular effects. These are all things that could happen after an infection with COVID. And for a lot of these things, people are saying like, oh, this is long COVID, okay? Now, I'm a retard, so hey, listen, if the CDC or whatever disagrees with me, okay, that's fine. The reason why I don't like that thing is because it makes SARS-CoV-2, the virus, sound like a unique virus that can cause uniquely long-lasting damage to human bodies, hence long COVID. But the problem is that I believe every single symptom that I just described, I think you can also get after influenza. I think there are different forms of the flu, of different varying strengths, and lots of different viral infections that can leave you with long-lasting conditions afterwards. We just don't really talk about it that much. But with COVID, everybody became obsessed with everything. And I think when you have these symptoms after like the flu or whatever, it'll be CFS, or you'll call it something different. But for some reason with COVID, we had like a special name for it, like long COVID. And it's like, well, I believe that it's rare, but I think that after any viral infection, these can fuck your bodies up in a variety of different ways. But people, like, it's felt like people tried to ascribe it as a special thing related to COVID. And I don't believe that's the case. Maybe with COVID, it might have a higher prevalence. Maybe. I don't even know if that's 100% true. But yeah. I don't think people realize that like a severe case of the flu can leave you with permanent lung damage for the rest of your life, or permanent cardiovascular changes for the rest of your life. It's just really rare. It doesn't normally happen. It's my understanding.